They sang together, laughed together, and became America's favorite fictional family. The Partridge Family was the picture of 1970s television perfection, but for one cast member, that glossy image masked a deeper truth. Susan Dey, the stunning teen who played Lori Partridge, seemed to have it all: fame, beauty, and adoring fans. But off-screen, she was quietly navigating emotional landmines that would leave a lasting impact. What really happened between Susan and her co-star that made her turn her back on the show that made her famous? And why has she never returned for any reunion, no matter how much fans beg for one? The answers lie in a complicated mix of private pain, professional boundaries, and a relationship that left her feeling betrayed. What began as a beloved family sitcom ended in silence, and Susan Dey never looked back. In 1970, American television experienced a cultural shift. The world was introduced to The Partridge Family, a show about a musical family navigating fame and family life. At its heart was Lori Partridge, played by Susan Dey, a former teenage model with virtually no acting experience. Yet Dey's natural screen presence and undeniable charm made her an instant star. With her radiant smile and graceful demeanor, she quickly earned the affectionate title of America's Sweetheart. Teen girls admired her as a role model, and parents appreciated her pure, kind image. Merchandise featuring her face flew off the shelves, and the show's songs topped the charts. From the outside, it seemed Susan Dey had it all, but internally she was grappling with the weight of sudden fame and the complex emotions that came with it. Growing up under the microscope of the media while trying to discover one's identity is no small feat. Behind the scenes of the family-friendly sitcom, reality looked very different. While the show depicted harmony and togetherness, the set was often charged with emotional tension, hormones, and the unique pressures of child stardom. Every movement, smile, and expression was subject to scrutiny. Though the cast publicly maintained a facade of camaraderie, cracks began to show. David Cassidy, the show's breakout star, insisted there were no feuds among the cast and even described them as a real family. But those who paid attention noticed the subtle signs of unease. The most complicated relationship on set was between Dey and Cassidy. On screen, they were the picture of sibling affection. Off-screen, however, there was something much more complicated brewing. Susan Dey developed deep feelings for Cassidy, feelings that extended far beyond friendly affection. This was not a fleeting teenage crush, but a profound emotional connection born of shared experiences and intense pressures. The two spent time between takes sharing private jokes and forming an emotional bond, but Cassidy, ever aware of his public image, kept her at arm's length. Cassidy was adored by millions, a bona fide teen idol, and while he was known for his charm and flirtatiousness, he was cautious about becoming romantically involved with someone so close to him on set. Dey, on the other hand, struggled with unrequited feelings. She admired David not just for his charisma, but for his vulnerability and the bond they shared in navigating fame. She watched him evolve under the spotlight, her own emotions deepening with each shared moment. But Cassidy's reluctance to reciprocate left her feeling isolated. Their differences in personality only deepened the emotional divide between Susan Dey and David Cassidy. Dey, the quiet and introspective introvert, found herself increasingly at odds with Cassidy's extroverted, confident nature. As the show's success grew, so did the pressure to maintain a public image of happiness and harmony, an image that Dey struggled to keep up, particularly as her unreciprocated affection for Cassidy weighed heavily on her. While Cassidy thrived in the spotlight, Dey's sensitivity made her feel more isolated. The emotional gap between them grew wider, and Dey found herself trapped in a painful silence. Though their relationship was never openly acknowledged as strained at the time, the tension between them became increasingly apparent. Dey distanced herself from Cassidy, choosing to remain professional while avoiding the intimacy that had once existed between them. The unspoken rift left emotional scars on Dey, which lingered long after the Partridge Family had ended. The heartache of unrequited love became an unhealed wound that quietly shaped her experiences both personally and professionally. In the years that followed, Dey worked hard to distance herself from her Partridge Family persona. She pursued more serious roles, determined to prove her acting chops beyond Lori Partridge. She found success in the critically acclaimed L.A. Law, where her portrayal of Grace Van Owen earned her a Golden Globe. However, even as she reinvented herself, the emotional residue of her time on the Partridge Family stayed with her. It was clear that, despite her professional success, the emotional toll of that chapter continued to shape her journey. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 2007, David Cassidy released his autobiography, Could It Be Forever? A memoir detailing his career, personal struggles, and experiences during the height of his fame. Among the many revelations in the book was a single passage that shook Susan Dey to her core. Cassidy claimed that he and Dey had once spent the night together during their time on the show. The admission was vague, but the implications were profound. For Susan Dey, this wasn't just an offhand anecdote. It was a betrayal. She had spent decades distancing herself from the show and the emotional pain that came with it. She had never spoken publicly about her feelings for Cassidy, choosing instead to move forward with her life quietly. To see that private, vulnerable part of her youth exposed to the world without her consent was devastating. The fallout from Cassidy's confession was swift and significant. Dey reportedly felt deeply hurt and blindsided by the revelation. She had never publicly acknowledged the incident, and to have it laid bare for public consumption felt like a violation of her trust. It wasn't just about the act itself, but about what it represented. A moment she had buried, now thrust into the spotlight as a footnote in someone else's story. It was this final breach that solidified Dey's decision to remain distant from all Partridge Family reunions. While other cast members, including Shirley Jones and Danny Bonaduce, occasionally participated in nostalgic retrospectives or interviews, Dey remained resolutely absent. She wanted no part in revisiting the painful past, particularly one now associated with betrayal. Over the years, many fans have been puzzled by Susan Dey's noticeable absence from the Partridge Family reunions. While other cast members occasionally reunited for nostalgic interviews, specials, and fan events, Dey chose to remain distant. But her decision wasn't rooted in ego or bitterness. It was grounded in self-preservation. For Susan, revisiting that chapter of her life wasn't just about reliving fond memories. It meant reopening emotional wounds that had never fully healed. To the public, The Partridge Family was a lighthearted sitcom about a musical family, full of catchy tunes and sibling banter. But behind the scenes, Susan was grappling with a mixture of emotions. Most notably, an intense and ultimately unreciprocated affection for her co-star, David Cassidy. The pain of that complicated relationship lingered for years, compounded by the pressures of sudden fame at such a young age. Instead of clinging to the past, Dey chose to prioritize her mental and emotional well-being. Today, Susan Dey lives a quiet, private life, away from the glaring lights of Hollywood. While she never formally said goodbye to acting, she stepped away from the industry to find peace on her own terms. Despite her retreat from the public eye, fans continue to hold her in high regard, not just for her talent, but for her quiet dignity and strength. Her refusal to participate in reunions shouldn't be viewed as a rejection of her past, but rather as a courageous boundary, a declaration that her healing matters more than nostalgia. In a world that constantly demands performers to smile through pain, Dey's decision is a rare act of self-respect. And in the end, perhaps her true legacy isn't just Lori Partridge, but the strength it took to leave her behind. If you enjoyed this deep dive into classic Hollywood stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes looks at your favorite stars and shows. Got a topic you'd like us to explore next? Drop it in the comments below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for watching.